Thank you very much. It's a real delight to be here. And I thought I'd start off. I am sure you've had some updates on what we do in Washington, but more specifically, most of what you hear out of Washington is very negative, so I'll talk about that one little item that all of you know about, and I consider it very positive. And that is the headway we're making with 1207. If you haven't heard the final numbers, there were 5 new members signed on today. It's 263. And it's not because of a right-wing conspiracy, because we have 88 Democrats on the bill. And we're down to only 2 Republicans that haven't signed on, so I might just leak those names out in case you know them. That's Mark Kirk and Joanne Emerson. So if you know them, call them up and ask them, when are they going to join us? But it is a good sign that the system can work if we do the job. Washington will respond if they hear enough from the people. They sort of like their job, but they want to know you're out there. Then they'll know what they're supposed to do. and they've heard from you. So the fact that we've been doing so well has been a result of your efforts and the efforts of so many others around the country. And as long as it works that way, what we have to do is wake up the country to the whole idea of liberty, not just auditing the Fed, but we need to wake them up on foreign policy, civil liberties, and sound money and economic policy. You know, I watch the History Channel once in a while, and I saw something the other night. It was called Life Without People. Some of you may have seen that. And it's pretty amazing what they assume would happen. I imagine it's fairly accurate. What happens, things fall apart rather quickly if there's nobody there to maintain things. And but I got to thinking, what would life be like without the Fed? Now that'll be something. But, of course, when you don't have people, the infrastructure falls apart. But with the Fed and big government, it looks like the infrastructure is going to fall apart anyway. So we obviously have a big job before us. And at the rate we're going, it looks like it's almost the goal of government to bring things down. Because the worse things get, and the more money they spend, the more debt they have, and the more money they print, so they run into problems, so what do? They print more money, spend more money, run up the debt, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. But we have the answer, and we need to get it over there pretty fast, because what are they thinking about right now? A new stimulus package. Sure, we need a stimulus, but I'll tell you what, if the economy needs a shot in the arm, which it obviously does, one of the better ways, instead of taking money out of the pockets of those of you who saved your money and are still working, why don't we put the money back into the pockets of all Americans by, first, we'll just do this by making sure everybody has more money in their pockets, let's get rid of the income tax and no withholding taxes immediately. You know, H.L. Mencken said the most dangerous man to any government is that individual who figures it out for himself, that they figured the truth out for themselves and not depend on the government. Now, this is what I see so unique about the organization and this movement and the people like you. And that is, you have figured it out. Most of you have been figuring it out for a long time. A lot are in the process of it, or a lot of you are on the verge of it. But figuring out the plain truth of things, figuring out that what you hear on the news and what you hear from the government officials, what you hear from the public school system, what you hear from most universities, just isn't the plain truth of things. It's all about as reliable as the information we get from our own CIA. In Washington, there's a lot of effort, though, to make everybody a good patriot. You know, remember not too long ago, just a few years ago, the litmus test for patriotism was voting for the Patriot Act. Then if you voted for the Patriot Act, you were a patriotic a member of Congress. The Patriot Act, though, was not passed in a very patriotic manner. The Patriot Act came up within hours of discussion and debate and voted on, and actually it wasn't available for anybody to read or understand. But literally, though, that was one of the litmus tests of what we should be doing. But this week, I had a tough vote on Thursday, and I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of you in here might disagree with me. But I thought I'd explain this vote because once again, it was the litmus test of patriotism. It's similar to the test that we went through every year or two when the Republicans had charge of the Congress, and that was, will you vote for a flag amendment? You know, don't touch the flag. If you don't vote for that, then therefore you're un-American. Another one they've used for over the past several years has been, if you don't vote for money for the troops, endorse some aggressive war, then you're unpatriotic and you don't support the troops and you're un-American. But this week we had a vote to paste the Pledge of Allegiance in the Visitor Center. Now, I don't know if you know anything about the Visitor Center in Washington, but it's a multi-million-dollar boondoggle that took years longer than it was supposed to, and it is you know, the cost overruns were unbelievable. So now they wanted to show that we were patriotic and put the Pledge of Allegiance on the wall. Now there were a few of us that voted against it. Now I voted against it for a particular reason. Others voted against it because they were insulted by the word God appearing in the Pledge of Allegiance. That didn't bother me as much as some other things. What bothers me was putting as much emphasis on the Pledge of Allegiance when you think about when the Pledge of Allegiance came by. You know, we had a Constitution, an oath of office, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence that they totally ignore up there, and yet they want to put the litmus test on the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd like them to think more about the litmus test, reading and understanding and believing what the Declaration of Independence actually says. You know, Mencken said the dangerous man and man or woman to the government is one that has figured things out. Well, you have, and you belong to a very dangerous group. And unfortunately, I'm afraid they're getting to know about that. But it's unique. You belong to a unique group, and you might feel frustrated at times because you say, well, we're not 51% of the population. And yet the effort and the value of a group like we have that believe in liberty and understand and is willing to work for it is like an army. Just ask Hillary Clinton how impressed she is with this army of people out there. You know, when she made that statement before the Banking Committee and praised how energetic the supporters of liberty were, the chairman, under his breath, I don't know if any of you heard that, under his breath he says, "You better keep it quiet. All you're going to do is encourage them."